Are you stuck? How about unhappy? Join Alena Chapman, author, mentor, and life coach for Magical Moments with Alena as she challenges you to get out of the doldrum and start living your life to the fullest. In just 60 minutes, Alena will help you take control of your life and push you to do the things you never thought you'd do. So get ready to take back your power and celebrate life with Magical Moments featuring Alena Chapman.
Hello, welcome to Magical Moments. I'm your host, Alena Chapman. And as you know, folks, it's all about that ease and betterment in your life. How do we acquire it? How do we keep it? And this is the way we do it with Magical Moments. And I have a magical nugget for you today. You know, this one is a little bit different because I don't know if I have a total answer for it. I can tell you a little bit on how I'm dealing with it, but it is a hard little thing to even think about. You know, we've been going through a lot as a country, as a family, as people for the last, year and a half. You know, that's a long time. And our kids, our wonderful children, they've been going through a lot too. It's a time when sports events were canceled. It's a time that proms and dances were canceled. It was a time when graduations were kept at a distance. There were getting together and just playing on the streets like I did as a kid stopped. It was always something that just took our life by storm. And our kids, the ones who are growing up, the kids who have the experience, you know, that aren't really, this is fresh, guys. I keep thinking back when I was, a teenager, or even when I was in grade school. That would be even worse. What would I have done? What would I have thought? How would that have shaped my perception of school, of friends? Would I have been more of an introvert? I don't know. I'm not much of an introvert. I have my moments, but would it have changed my personality? These are questions that only time will tell. But I think now is the time that we really need to help our children through this, not just wear a mask and be petrified of a virus, but help them through this experience. And I think that is what I have done with my boys. And I have 3 boys, as you all know. And they're older. Well, one is 16. He's in high school. This year, he has been more on the computer than anything with friends. And he's an introvert anyway. I would like to see him get out more. And I was always trying to get him to get out more, and now he's in. But I think what I'm doing with him is I am pursuing him getting out more as the restrictions get lighter, and to talk about the value of being with people, because I'm trying to counteract that always being a lone introvert. And I'm trying to open the door. And with my older 2, I'm just saying, be cautious. Now that things are opening up, be cautious, but get out. Be active. Open it up if you can. Just be smart about it. I think we have to really listen to our kids at this time. Right now, I have a guest, and we're going to be talking about this issue. Her name is Krysta Lee. She pursues her goals and actively helping people transform from wanderers to warriors. I love that. She uses her voice as an activist for personal growth, empowering others, along with a deep mission to inspiring and letting people to begin to dig deep and level up in their lives. She's a multi-award-winning, best-selling author and life coach. And with that, I'd like to bring on Krysta. Hi, Krysta.
Hello, thank you so much for having me. It's so great to be here.
You know what? We're going to have to do that all over.
Oh, no.
No. It's okay. It's just that I didn't record up here. I'm turning on 2 recordings. Hold on. Good. Welcome to Magical Moments. I'm your host, Alena Chapman. And as you know, it is all about that ease and flow in your life. And isn't that a great thing to have? And this show provides that. This magical nugget is a little bit different. You know, we're coming out of a really incredible year and a half. And we as adults feel it. I see it. I see some that are, they're coming out of the gates just wanting to transform, wanting to just try something new. And then I see others that are, have a little bit of anger inside. I see others that aren't even out yet. But what about kids? What about our kids? If we adults aren't sure on how we want to proceed, and if we aren't getting our footing, then what about the kids? And I know we always think kids are adaptable and, they'll do just fine. But think back to when you were in grade school or high school, and you've spent a year on the computer. If you were an introvert, you'd be more of an introvert. That's what I'm dealing with my youngest. And what about the fear? I think that's the biggest thing, the fear that these kids have had to endure and ingest. As a person, as a spiritual leader, as a spiritual curator, the last thing we want to have is fear. Constant, every day fear. People come to me with that. And now that's what our kids have been living with for about a year and a half now. So this show, we're going to be talking about how we can help our children and our friends, because some people that I know, I talk to a bunch of women on the Zoom, and I know that some of those women have not even been out of the house since it started. So to help others, how do we help others to get over the fear and come out strong in this new world that we're making? I have Krysta Lee as a guest. She is incredible. She pursues her goals and actively helping people transform from wanderers to warriors. She uses her voice as an activist for personal growth, empowering along with a mission to inspiring others to dig deep and level up in their lives. She's also a multi-award winning, best-selling author and a coach. And with that, she's a perfect person to begin talking about this issue. Hello, Krysta. How are you?
Hello. Thank you so much. I'm well. How are you today?
I am doing really well. Thank you. And today is the day we are going to talk about everything that has happened in this year and a half and how it affects our kids. I don't know. What is your perspective on this as far as what are you seeing with kids and what are you seeing with your own family? You have a family, correct?
I do, yes. I have a family of 4 here, so my husband and I, and then we have 2 children. Jackson, our son, is 4, and our daughter Lily is 2. And everything that you're saying, I am feeling. I feel like the children have suffered so much through this past year and a half. And it's really difficult because, as you said, we know children are very resilient and adaptable. However, nothing like this has ever happened before in the world in these times with everything that's going on. So it kind of scares me, to be honest, to think about the long-term effects that this is going to be having on the children. And I know so many children out there are suffering, especially those I find in the teenage years and adolescence. it's just really difficult because they're missing the connection. And, you know, it does take a village. I know it's been said time and time again, how it takes a village to raise children. And right now that's missing the connection. And where I'm from, I'm here in Ontario, Canada, we're in a lockdown still. So it's really strict. Yeah. And it's just been ongoing since March of last year. We've had a couple of different like things open up here and there, but right now, again, it's full lockdown. So it's definitely affecting kids and their mental health and their mental well-being. And I think it's turning a lot of extroverted kids to become introverted, and maybe a little bit too much so, where it becomes a problem, you know, dealing with depression and anxiety and stress at such a young age.
Yeah, and that's exactly, you know, we always, I don't like the term that kids are resilient, because, you know, you and I both know that kids might be so-called resilient, but they harbor that's their learning time, and those experiences form them. And we've all seen a child who has grown up in terrible, terrible circumstances. It really does form their future in how they face the world, how they see themselves in this world, and what they think they can do in this world, and what they can achieve. And so, yeah, they may be resilient in the moment because you see them playing, but they're harboring all that. They're putting it down inside of them, and it's going to shape their future. And you brought up an extremely good point. You know, I talked to Dr. Fernanda, who was the first responder in China when this first broke out. And he was saying, I asked the question, what about the mental health? And he said, we are very concerned about the mental health of people, but no one has mentioned the children. And my children, I have a 16-year-old, like I said in the magical nugget there, that is, he's 16 and he's already an introvert, but I have seen him regress into, well, not regress, but evolve, because it is an evolving, whether it's not really good or bad, it depends on the person. For him, it's not so good, into a real introvert, you know, I mean, really, like way too much. And you know what? That's social anxiety. That's what it is. It's social anxiety that starts to form. And that is hard. Social anxiety leads to people not wanting to come out of the house.
It does. You're right. And it's really difficult because, like you said, this time in the lives of children, it's their developmental stages, whatever stage that they're at. This is like impressioning a new normal on them that is not normal at all whatsoever. And so that's what scares me, to think of how are these children going to grow up to be in 10 years from now, or 15 years from now, or even 5 years from now. It's really unknown. And so I think we have to work a little bit harder as parents, which is kind of hard on everybody to begin with. But as parents, I feel like for me, it's an extra weight on my shoulders, because I'm now having to be more conscious and aware of so much more, because it's kind of like we have to balance out the spectrum with what's going on in the world. It's crazy.
Yeah. And yours are younger, 2 and 4.
Yeah, they're younger. So sometimes it feels like a blessing a little bit, because they are so young and they aren't, you know, like in school or anything like that. Like, so I feel like they are a little bit, it's a little bit better for them in that sense. Although, you know, where we live, we're kind of remote. So we don't really do too much out here anyway. So our lives haven't been that affected as far as like not going to school. Although we used to go to the library quite often, and we do miss that. Yeah. And nature school as well, we have out here, which is something that I miss. They miss as well too. Yeah, my heart goes out to the kids that are doing the virtual learning and the online learning and the e-school, all that. It just seems like so much, especially because, you know, they're not supposed to be on the computer all the time, and they are now. So it's
not good for their eyes. Well, and I think, you know, my older ones who are in college and the workforce, they have a good perspective. You know what I mean? One is on the East Coast, where it's a lot more strict than where I am in the Midwest. But he's got a good perception of it. He's not harboring himself away. And my other son, he works, so he's out there. He sees people, so he doesn't harbor away. But my younger, I've had to really notice what he's going through and start to help him with getting himself back out there to feel the safety. I think what we need to do is we've got to switch gears here. People are getting vaccinated. We're starting to get ourselves out and more. I think we've done enough of the wear that mask and everything. I think, and it's important to wear the mask. Don't get me wrong. We're not out of the woods yet, but we've got to start switching gears and helping our kids get back into the world again as we help ourselves. What's one way that you have been seeing works or have done yourself?
Definitely. I love what you're saying there. I feel like for me, being more conscious has been a lifesaver. So paying attention to the cues, seeing when the children are really thriving and happy and what's working that way. And then also noticing when they are struggling and starting to pick up on the triggers, as well as for myself. Like, I really believe that self-awareness first and foremost is the most important thing. We can't heal what we don't feel. So as long as we're being really tuned into how we're feeling, then we can also do the same for others. So for our children, for example, and I know for me and my family, getting outside has been so helpful. Yeah. We get outside every single day, at least an hour, even in the winter here in Canada with the snow and everything. We get all bundled up and go and get out that vitamin D and the fresh air. Yeah. And in the warmer months, we do a lot of grounding. So walking barefoot on the earthing, I feel is so healing. Mother Nature is definitely the biggest healer. Eating really well as well, because I know how easy it can be to just order takeout and eat processed foods and things like that. So we're very mindful here of eating really well, drinking lots of water. I know people say it all the time, but it's so important. That's a very huge one too.
It's keeping, I think it is. It's very important. I think it's important to make dates with your kids. Yes. I love that. I did that when my family was going through a hard time. That's one of the things. My boys were not quite as young, but they were 5, 7, and 9 or something like that. And I made Friday days or nights. They'd get home from school and I would, and now if they're not going to school, they get off the computer. And then we would make blankets over chairs to make tents, and we'd order pizza, which I know is not wonderful food, but the kids love it. And we would sit down and watch a movie together. Yeah. Under the blankets like a cave. That's the kind of stuff I always did whenever I always try to bring the boys together. I always tried to have us strong as a family. And I think as that has helped the kids to feel more secure in getting out, not to get that social anxiety, not to get that just feeling that that life can be fun again. I love to be so doom and gloom all the time.
Absolutely. I love that so much. And it's funny that you mentioned the tents, because we just did that this morning, actually.
Oh, see, that's fun. See, yes. Those things really help. And it's like we are all out on the prairie, but getting them, I don't know if your children are, your 4-year-old would be going into school pretty soon, or nursery.
September, yeah.
Yeah, preschool. But I think, kids, as they go back into school, I think they need our support more than anything now, because Absolutely. The schools will be strict right away. And they just need to, I find myself, I go the other way. I'm not as critical. I'm not as trying to hold them to a certain anything now. I put my mode more into helping them to be successful and feel good about their days, to always do something fun every day, to not be so scared, to try something new, to step forward, because my son is in school. My kids are, two of them are in school. So to just always feel like they can do, instead of thinking they can't. In fact, I never let my kids say can't. I didn't even say can't, What does that, it cuts off every opportunity, just went out the window with that can't, In fact, people shouldn't say can't.
Agree. Amen.
So what are some of the things with your family, that you're doing to help them to adjust to this? And how do you answer their questions about this for people who have young children?
Yeah. So what we love to do is to do new things, just like you were saying. So we're very conscious of introducing as many new board games as possible, playing new games, doing everything to stay away from the screen time. Although our guys aren't on school, like on online schooling, we don't really do a lot of screen time in our home anyway. So we're reading a lot and doing as much child-led learning as possible. So, whatever the kids show interest in, and this could apply to any age, whatever they're showing interest in, dig into that and explore and do experiments and things. Like right now we're in the season of planting seeds and growing. So we're experimenting with growing different kinds of like beans and sprouts and things like that. And I think as long as we're having those conversations with our children, the possibilities are endless, and just holding space for them is so important, because they are going to have questions. And we like to be honest with our kids, even though they are very young. We explain to them that there is a pandemic going on in the world right now. Lots of things have changed. This is how we adapt. This is what we're doing. And, it's really working because they understand. And now it's at the point where my son will say, "Oh, Mama, do you have your mask?" Like when we have to go into a store or something. And as much as my heart breaks that he shouldn't even be having to think about that right now, I'm just glad that he seems very nonchalant about it. Yeah. So I think as long as we're having those open conversations and holding space for our children, we can figure out what they need, and we can be there to be of service to them, which actually helps ourselves too, I think.
It does. And speaking about ourselves, I think we have to be in the right mind. We have to have open minds. We have to feel brave ourselves. We have to feel like we have it together. And with so many that have lost jobs, divorces at an all-time high, there is so much that has been going on with these. The pandemic came with a bunch of different things, So with that, how can we need to get ourselves in order? A lot of us. And with some of the ways I really do, first of all, we've got to take care of ourselves. We've got to look at, how are we thinking? How do we expect our kids to adapt with getting back out if we're not adapted to getting back out? How do we expect our kids to deal with this in a way that's productive and moving forward if we're stuck in anger? What do you think about all that?
I agree 1,000%. And as you were speaking there, it made me think of the rule when you hop on an airplane, and they say if the oxygen mask drops down, you have to put it on yourself first before you can help your children or anyone else near you. And that's why, because if we don't take care of ourselves first, we are of no service to anyone else, especially our children. And I think that's the greatest gift that we can give to our kids, is the gift of self-love, and taking time, like consciously planning time to have little dates with yourself, even if it's just 5 minutes a day to start, building up to regular time with self and doing the things that you love to make you happy, and filling your cup up so that you can pour it over and not be pulling from an empty cup. Because I feel like so many people, especially women, like a lot of mothers that I'm speaking with lately, are just so drained. Like, of course, everyone's going through their own thing. And I just, like, a very commonality that I'm experiencing with women in general is just how much mothers are just tapped out, burning the candle at both ends, and just having a really difficult time managing everything. And I think it has to do a lot with not being mindful of putting yourself first, because it's hard to, right? When there's so much going on, we know we're kind of like an octopus, right? So,
and you have the kids home every minute, and you're also doing this schooling, and you're also doing the meals, and you're also, if you work, you're also working, and most do work. It's a very heavy role. I think, when I never had kids like in this kind of situation, because nobody has. This is unique. But I'll tell you, when you have kids, you got to think to yourself, if I'm not full, if I'm not feeling good, I'm not going to be my best for my kids. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to make this experience worse. Mm-hmm. So how do I take the time? When can I take the time to just let myself get full? And it can be those little tiny walks. It can be that bubble bath. It can be that time that you take time to read. It is, I know you're tired, but getting up a little bit earlier in the morning to do yoga or whatever it is that makes you feel good, dancing, whatever it is that makes you feel good. It's doing the things that you need also. And just to feel like, it's that Maya Angelou. It really is. When she said, don't ask for a shirt from someone who doesn't have one.
Yes.
Yeah. So how do we think we can give what we don't feel and we don't have inside of us?
Absolutely. Yeah. I know, because it seems counterproductive. I know, like, sometimes when you think about, like, I have to, like, schedule some time for myself. I don't have time for that. But then actually when we start doing that, we're more productive in other areas of our lives. So if we just take that time, I know it seems like a lot at first, then we're so much more productive, whether it's at work or like playing with our children. Our minds are more clear, so we can be more present and then catch those cues. And it has a really positive ripple effect. And
it really does.
Yeah, it does. And it looks different for everybody. Like you said, going for a walk, I think that's great. I love doing that. And like having the bubble baths and everything. For me, a lot of learning, like I love to learn new things. So that's huge. And journaling, writing, being creative in any way, like painting, drawing, there's so many things. And if you don't know what's for you, then I recommend trying new things, because you just never know.
My mom, she was an artist. And I remember when we were little, and yes, we used to play. We had a sunroom, and we would play out on that sunroom. We would play as she painted. And we had a really good time. We had no problem doing that. It wasn't, she didn't have to be in with us. She was right there painting, and we would, in fact, that's one of the things I remember, and I was really little. I was, I was 4. So yeah, I remember that. So, those little things. And when she did her artwork, she was always so happy, because that was filling her cup. And it helped us. And I think that's truly important. No one says that you have to give up everything about yourself, because when you give up everything about yourself, then what happens is you're giving up you. Mm-hmm. And that's the part that your kids will remember. Absolutely. That's the part that they want to see. They don't want to see the person who's so aggravated and tired. And, we really do have to take care of ourselves. We really do have to nurture. I mean, there's nothing wrong with getting a book, letting kids play with a board game or something. You don't have to be a part of it every single minute. You can sit in a chair and read for a minute. As, you don't have to be constantly entertaining.
Right. So true. And children will model that as well. So when they see us doing those things, they're like, oh, then they'll learn self-care habits as well, just subconsciously. But just like you said, by being around the mother or the parent, whoever, the caregiver that is in that happy space. Yes. And also very calming too, which is nice, because there is so much uncertainty in the world right now. So having that safe space where you're grounded and you're practicing something that makes you feel good, that's so nurturing and loving for kids. And I think it's a really great thing to instill in them, that self-love and self-care.
You're listening to Magical Moments for that ease and betterment in your life.
You're listening to Magical Moments with Alena Chapman, helping you find your inner purpose. Learn more online at soulmanifesto.com.
So this is Magical Moments, guys. We are back. And this is an important issue or show that we're doing today, because I think it's, we're talking about generations of really getting affected. And we're talking about even us stepping out. We went into this pandemic one way, and a lot of us are coming out another way. So how do we enter into this new world with kids, without kids? It's important. And how can we do it with a little ease and flow instead of anxiety and doubt and worry and fear? And with that, I have Krysta Lee with me. So Krysta, let's just take that bull by the horns. If things haven't been going well for us, and maybe we have kids, maybe we don't, but first of all, let's deal with us. If we've gone through the divorce, if we've lost the job, if we have, life was not good for everyone, how do we step back out? I mean, self-care is one thing, but boy, it's good and it's important. We got to fill our cup. But how do we step back and be that warrior versus that wanderer?
Oh, I love this question. Thank you for asking. For me, I think it's all about observing and coming from a place of neutrality and doing our best not to have expectations. And I know that can sound really crazy, but one of the things that I like to talk about is the old Control-Alt-Delete method, like on a computer, if you're looking to get rid of something. I apply this to so many areas of my life. So controlling my expectations, that's how I do it. I learned to control my strings, so no strings attached, in order to love unconditionally, because expectations can lead to attachments, and attachments can lead to disappointments when they're not met. So what I like to do is to just kind of let go of most things, because really at the end of the day, what do we have control over? Ourselves, and that's about it. And with so much uncertainty that's happening in the world right now, if we were clinging on to everything that's being said or changed or whatever, we would just be broken all the time. So I like to step back and take a third party perspective, and then just see, okay, where can I move forward from here? Letting go of all the expectations of others and surroundings, people, places, things, all that, letting go, and then honing in on self. What makes me feel good, and then doing more of that. And then by law of attraction, more of those great things will come. And that's how we pivot.
It's interesting, because I know there are people out there saying, what? And maybe there aren't, but somehow I think there might be one of you out there going, what? Does she realize how much I have to do? And this is the thing. And I think Krysta has a very good point, because Krysta, I think, you're right in that we have to step back. Expectation, saying, okay, expectation is not it's not a critical baby step. Now let's talk about that, because there's a difference there. Does it mean no expectation? I'm going to sit on the couch all day? No, it does not. I don't even know what that feels like. So what it does mean is that I'm going to say, all right, I'm going to step out, and I am going to answer a few things about getting a job, because I lost my job maybe. I'm going to step out and try and just put my resumes a few places. I'm going to be led to the right job. I know that it's going to come, but I'm just going to start moving in that direction. And see, you didn't put the pressure on yourself. You are taking the step in the present, in the now, making it real. But you're not attaching. Am I right, Krysta? And I'm going to have you start. You're not attaching, I got to get a job today. Oh my gosh, what is my mother going to think about this? Which I think is so funny. With all of you who have listened to this show, you know my mother. So, I'm not, what am I going to do if I don't get a job? Oh, yeah, that's right. When you have an expectation, you got the buts and what ifs that come in, and then it puts a negative spin on it. And then you're off to the races on the critical, and you never leave the sofa.
Yeah.
Am I right, Krysta?
Absolutely. That's exactly what I mean. Those attachments that we have, they can be so hindering and so stressful and give us anxiety and so much pressure. And so all we can do is, in my mind, what I like to do is think about what I would like to happen or what I want to do. Say if I want to get this job, or I want to have this relationship, or I want to manifest this money financially, dream it up, put it out to the universe, and then let it go without expectations, without attachments, and then just take the action steps. Like you said, go out, drop off the resume, go out, meet the people, do the things, taking the
will.
Yeah. And then without all of those attachments to the outcome, anything can happen and we won't be as disappointed because we aren't expecting anything negative or really positive. We're just coming from that place of neutrality, equanimous. I love coming from that space.
And it helps us to enjoy the process and the people we meet and the experiences we have along the way. And even as we're helping, that's the thing, when we're helping our kids, it's really important to have that same feeling, believe it or not.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times we project our fears onto our kids. We project our anger onto our kids. We project everything about ourselves on our kids. It's really funny. It didn't have to do with this pandemic, but I remember I had some friends that came and they brought their kids, and we had a big 3-acre pond, and my boys would run into that pond, right? And they're jumping off the dock. And I remember the mom saying to her oldest, "If you go in there, you'll die." Now that was projecting a fear, folks. Mm-hmm. I think I couldn't give you a better example if I thought about it all day long. That was a fear. That was a fear. That was a projected fear from her mind. And instead of saying, well, why don't we wear a life jacket? Because you haven't had much experience, but I want you to go and just test the water, see how you feel comfortable, and I'll come with you and we can walk in. Instead of that, it's just, oh my gosh, if you do that, you're going to die, because that's what I'm thinking in my mind. Mm-hmm. See, we project. And I think the best thing I ever did was I cut the cords with my kids. You know what I mean? I cut the cords from my psyche. So it wasn't about me anymore, and it was about them. So again, that expectation was gone. And so when something would happen with them, or they wanted to do something, instead of projecting what my fears or my expectations or what I wanted others to think, oh, I have to be a good mother kind of idea, that was gone, and it was all about them. Expectations are really something, aren't they?
They really are. And it's really incredible when we sit back and think about it, how many we have. And I don't know if it's just conditioning over the years, like programming, from people around us, parents, school. Like there's so many reasons why we think the way that we do, but and even just like survival mode, which I think a lot of people are living in right now, that very basic instinct of just like to live. So we're like really on high alert and keeping our eyes open for anything that could go wrong. So for me, just having that, the place of less expectations, which is totally different. I want to just state than standards. Like I have reasonably high standards, and I think those are very different than expectations. Like, so I think it's safe to have, standards of whatever you choose, values and morals and all those things. Just the attachments to the expectations of outcomes, I think is when it gets really tricky, because then we can be so disappointed and projecting onto others. We don't want to do that. I don't like doing that. And I don't want to do that to my children either, because that's my thing. That's my business, and we are programming our little children and the kids around us and people around us in general. So I think it's really important to be mindful of that and do our best not to project. And if there's a trigger that happens that makes us feel like we need to project something, then I like to take note of that mentally and go back and do some like self-works, inner child healing, and go there and figure out, why is this coming up for me? How come I'm feeling this way?
Yeah.
And it really helps to make a difference.
It does. It makes a big difference. And then to help kids in this time, I think, like, well, okay, if I took my 16-year-old, what am I doing? I'm going to use myself as an example. My listeners are very used to that because I do it, because I don't care if they don't agree, or I care if they don't agree, but I don't care if they say, oh my gosh, that Alena. So it's all about, and plus I know what I do. And so with this, my child is an introvert, and this has made him more. And so a little bit of social anxiety stuff has happened. Plus his two brothers last year left for college and their lives. And, so he's stuck with just mom. Oh my gosh. How much more can you put on a kid, really, So I have done other things, mostly we're trying to get out. We're teaching him how to drive. We're getting on the road, even if we don't stop anywhere except a drive through or something, but we're getting out on the road. I spend much more time just conversing. And I find we're getting to know each other on a different level. And then whether he takes the advice or not, I always offer any kind of advice to calm that little stomach that he gets if he has to go out in public or whatever else, ways that he can get his breath back. And also, I think it's important. I never say I have all the answers. I tell him to go on YouTube too and check it out if he doesn't want to listen to me. Never does it reflect on me, and it allows him the freedom. I found him looking on YouTube. Then he came back to me. He says, they say the same thing, Mom.
There you go.
It didn't matter. And even if they didn't, and he liked it, it's all about helping him. I think if we understand that we're helping our kids to transition back into the world, we have to be ever present. And it's not that hard. And it's not by shouting that if you go out there without your mask, you're going to die. That is not what we need right now. We just don't. The kids have had enough pressure on that. It's how do we be safe and function in the world? And how do we still have our friends? How do we still feel good about taking a walk with our friends? How do we start getting our foot back into the door of living? That's what we need to do with our children. But we first have to figure out how to do it ourselves.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, preach. I'm loving everything you're saying.
Yeah. Well, and for you, for your children, how would be the best way to start? I know Canada hasn't opened up, but I just know you have been thinking ahead. And how are you going to present that, going to the park with other kids when that time comes? What are your secrets to help them not be so careful that they're standing, really far apart and nobody can be in the sandbox, only one person? How do we get back into having two in the sandbox? How are you going to broach that with kids who are so young and that's the only experience they've really seen?
Yeah, for us, we do a lot of role play at home. So we take, real life scenarios such as meeting people. How do you make a new friend? How do you talk to somebody that you don't know? We start at home, and that's what we do, interacting with the children. And then we will experiment a little bit. So they had the park shut down here for a little bit, but as soon as they opened, we went. And it was funny, just a few weeks ago, there was a mother and a son that was at the park that we went to, and the son appeared to be about the same age as my son. And my son used to be really, really extroverted and wanted to meet everyone, but then he's gotten really shy over the last little while. So I said, how about we practice making a friend today? There seems to be a boy that maybe you can make a friend with, and then mama can make a friend with his mama. So kind of putting myself in his shoes as well. So we're doing it together. And we were on the swings and we talked about it a little bit and then we went for it. So I think because we had prepared at home, when we went out into the real world and went for it, he did amazing. I said, you can introduce yourself and say, what's your name? And they'll tell you back. And then on goes the process. And he did it. And I was so proud of him. And then
awesome.
I was chatting with the mom and we were laughing actually, because we were saying how it's almost like we've forgotten how to socialize in human form because it's been so long. And, although we're keeping our distance and everything, we were having a conversation with each other whom we've never met before. And we were kind of laughing because it's really weird out there right now, at least here in Ontario, that's what it feels like. So I was really proud of us though. I think because we did the work at home and just are mindful of all the possibilities that can happen, we kind of just prepare just like anything. Like when I go to perform on stage, if I'm learning a new song or whatever at home, I practice and rehearse until I'm feeling like I'm 200%, because I know when I go out onto the stage or into real life, that will drop down because of nerves or anxiety or pressure or distractions or whatever. So if I want to be 100% out there, I got to be 200% in my head at home. That's how I feel. And it seems to work.
It works.
Fingers crossed it stays that way.
But you also made it fun, and that's important. And I think having fun is that's what I do. You can do that with a kid who's 2 and you can do it with a kid who's 16. And that's the whole key to it. It's taking the pressure off, not making it the end of the world either way. And just lighten up, folks, And I think that goes for all of us. We just have to lighten up, process the things. How do people find out more about you if they want to look you up? How do they find you?
For sure. Yeah. You can visit my website anytime at www.KrystaLee.com. That's KRYSTA, Lee, LEE.com.
Okay. Awesome. And you're also on social media and everything else.
You bet. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all the things. I've got links on my website to all of them, as well as like some music up there and some acting stuff and life coaching, everything. It's all mixed into the pot.
Yeah. And for everyone out there, if you are thinking, okay, I've got to be well for my kids or my spouse, and yet I'm not feeling so hot. I'm just not sure how to get back out there, or I'm not really sure. I'm so scared, or I'm upset, or I'm starting over. Oh my gosh. The possibilities of what could be going on out there are just endless. But I'll tell you, that's why at Soul Manifesto we have that inevitable you, and it is the inevitable you. It's you, and it deals with that fear. It deals with that feeling of, well, I don't even know how to begin. How do I begin? Well, that's what inevitable you is about. How do I find my mind to just be still for a minute so I can get some clarity? Again, the inevitable you. How do I get the support I need? Again, the inevitable you. So check it out at soulmanifesto.com. And right now, because of this pandemic and everything, we kept the price really low. But you snap in one of those little, you click on it. It's a module. You click on that. And I guarantee by the time because there's 13 that you will get, and you just click on one, and you listen to Elizabeth Gilbert and myself, or some of the other fabulous leaders that we have, you can't help but already start to feel better. And you'll say to yourself, I got this. And isn't that the way we want to be when we're designing our future? Yes. Mm-hmm. So I thank you for joining us at Soul Manifesto. And I also want to thank you for joining us at this show. This is a big show, and it's important. We really do have to be at our best if we want to help our kids, our spouses, our parents, if we want to help others to deal with it as well as we can. We're all in this together. Let's help each other. Let's all get ourselves into a place where we can help each other. And as always, I always wish you the ease and the flow, and it can have ease and flow, believe it or not. And just enjoy the process. We're all learning together. Namaste, my dear friends. I'll talk to you next week.
This has been Magical Moments with Alena, featuring Alena Chapman. If you missed an episode, download it now on iTunes, Spotify, TuneIn, CastBox, Deezer, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, or your favorite podcast platform. Learn more online at soulmanifesto.com.
Podcasts by Federated Media.